Hello everyone, my name is Anca Timofan. I'm an archaeologist at the National Museum of Unification in Alba, Iulia, Romania. It's a pleasure to be part of the Roman Finds Group Autumn Conference, recent finds from volunteer excavation in the Roman world. I would like to thank the organizers for this opportunity, to Stephen for his kind invitation, to Rachel for her help and communication during the registration process. During the summer of 2023, a team of volunteers from the United Kingdom, from Grampus Heritage and Training and Satul Verde, took part in two archaeological excavation in the civilian settlement of the Legio 13 Gemina from Apulum. Their contribution and their involvement, it was essential in uncovering and documenting new discoveries from Apulum. These excavations have provided valuable insights into the urban development and organization of the Roman Apulum during the 2nd and 3rd centuries AD. So I will begin with a short presentation of the historical background of province Dacia and Apulum. So I would like to begin my presentation on the Roman discoveries from Alba Iulia with a short introduction to the history of the province of Dacia and of Roman Apulum. The conquest of Dacia marked one of the most significant military campaigns of the Roman Empire. For both strategic and economic reasons, Emperor Trajan carefully planned the conquest of Decebalus' kingdom. After two wars fought in the early years of the 2nd century AD, Dacia was transformed into a heavily militarized imperial province. Apulum was located in the very heart of the Roman province, a strategic position that allowed control over both the gold mining and the salt extraction in the region. Today, the Roman sites of Alba Iulia represent the most important archaeological remains of the former province of Dacia. Apulum was the largest conurbation in the province of Dacia and represents the most important Roman site from Romania inscribed on the World Heritage List. The cluster comprises several component parts that reflect the military, political, and civilian aspects of ancient Apulum: the fortress of the Legio 13 Gemina, the palace of the Roman governors, Praetorium Consularis, and the private residence, a large Roman domus. The fortress of the Legio 13 Gemina is closely connected to the discoveries I will now present, as they come from the civilian settlement, the Canabe Legionis. The fortress itself was a formidable structure. Its stone walls began to rise under Emperor Hadrian, enclosing an area of almost 21 hectares. The walls were built using the opus quadratum technique with large limestone blocks. Measuring about 2 meters thick and over 7 meters high, the enclosure had a rectangular layout with 4 massive gates symmetrically placed on each side. Several elements of this Roman fortress, located in the very heart of the 18th century Austrian citadel of Alba Iulia, have been investigated in the recent years and are now showcased to the public, as you can see in these images. The Porta Principalis Dextra, the Southern Gate, the Via Principalis, the main road, the Principia, the headquarters building, and parts of the enclosure walls. Apulum was a complex conurbation which included the fortress of the Legio 13 Gemina, its surrounding Canabe, the civilian settlement, the seat of the Roman governors, Praetorium Consularis, two large necropolises, and another Roman town near River Mureș, which became Colonia Aurelia Apulensis under Emperor Commodus. I will begin with Altip excavation, located in the southeastern area of Apulum, and conclude with the findings from Domus II. The preventive archaeological excavation took place ahead of the construction of a new hotel. This sector corresponds to an important residential area of the Roman city, located within the civilian settlement that later became Municipium Septimum Apulense. The investigated area lies on a property where the former buildings of the Altip printing house had been demolished. That's why We called it Altip excavation. Three main layers were identified. Early 2nd century AD shows traces of clay extraction. Mid to late 2nd century, the area became part of the Canabe legionis, with long strip houses, typical of Roman settlements near military forts. And finally, in the 3rd century, during the time of the Municipium Septimum Apulense, a large Roman house was built, with an eastern portico, rooms arranged around the central hall paved in opus piccatum technique, and direct access to the front street. One of the most remarkable finds is a bronze military diploma discovered inside one of the rooms of the Roman house. This fragment, representing the second tablet of the original document, dates to the 2nd century AD. The diploma belonged to a former cavalryman who had served in an elite Roman unit, an ala. The soldier and his wife were of Dardanian origin and had 4 sons and 2 daughters. After receiving Roman citizenship, they settled here at Apulum. Let's take a closer look at these remarkable discoveries, a glimpse into the daily life of Apulum's wealthy inhabitants, almost 2000 years ago. The following short film was recorded on site at the end of the excavation. As the camera moves across the site, the ancient walls of the Roman house are visible among the foundations of the modern building that has now been demolished. We can see the layout of the house taking shape and the street that once connected this home to the wider life of the Roman city. We see the central hall of the house, possibly an atrium, paved in opus piccatum, herringbone technique. The balneum, the private bath, with rooms with an underfloor heating system and a beautiful floral mosaic with its black and white petals arranged in a pattern very similar to one from Pompeii. As part of the Apulum Balneum project, the private bath of the Roman house represents an example of a 3D reconstruction based on solid archaeological evidence. The plan of the rooms was generated from the previously created photogrammetric model. The outlines of all existing architectural elements were carefully recorded, including foundations, floor surfaces, and traces of the underfloor heating system. The absidal room, known as the caldarium, the hottest room of the bath, is similar to other examples discovered at Apulum and in the province of Dacia. Based on this data, a reconstructive floor plan was designed, forming the basis for the 3D modeling process. Certain architectural features and types of floor arrangements documented archaeologically within the Roman house were modeled and integrated into the 3D reconstruction. The archaeological discoveries made it possible to propose interpretations regarding several structural aspects of the rooms with a hypocaust system, as well as the dimensions of their architectural components: masonry, bricks, air tubes, tiles, roof, and window glass elements. Among the many Roman finds from this site were lots of bricks stamped with the mark of the Legio 13 Gemina, fragments of mosaic and patterned floors, and also everyday objects that once belonged to a Roman kitchen. A domestic space, the house's kitchen, was at some point destroyed by a violent fire. Everything collapsed over the working area where the oven, wooden furniture, and various household objects once stood. So far, we have uncovered the chair remains of the tables or storage chests, three mortaria, a bronze strainer, as well as an iron pruning knife. Other Roman finds include bronze cavalry harness fittings, coins, a bone spoon, a Roman die, oil lamps, fragments of terra sigillata pottery, bone hairpins, a tintinnabulum, and a beautiful Roman chimney pot. The group of volunteers arrived in Alba, Iulia in August 2023. The team was formed by Catherine Spurgeon, Kieran Stamp, Patricia Shaw, Cameron Black, Lawrence Key, and Chloe Haskins, who worked closely with us and offered great help with the excavation. They were guided and supported by our dear friend Andrei, who recently passed away and whose presence we deeply miss. The volunteers came to Alba Iulia as part of an Erasmus Plus project within a program supported by Grampus Heritage and Training and Satul Verde. Their contribution was essential in uncovering and documenting new discoveries from Apulum. They made some very interesting finds, which they also shared with the local media during a press visit and an interview at the site. Andre and Cameron worked a lot on creating 3D models of the site, including the Roman bath and several medieval graves discovered in another trench. Meanwhile, Patricia and the rest of the team were involved in a long but very valuable activity of flotation to recover microbotanical remains for future paleobotanical analysis. It was a large amount of soil, especially from the Roman kitchen area. The second excavation, where the volunteers worked in 2023, is Domus 2. Archaeological excavations had previously taken place here in 2020-2021, but this time the work was about a new stage, preparing the area for the conservation of a room with a hypocaust heating system located within a newly constructed residential complex. In this area, located in the northeastern part of Apulum, the archaeological excavations brought to light the remains of a Roman house called Domus II. Dating from the second half of the 2nd century AD, this private residence was also part of the civilian settlement of the fortress of Legio 13 Gemina. The building had an inner courtyard and rooms with an underfloor heating system. The Roman finds from this area were also remarkably diverse. We discovered a lot of Roman oil lamps, some with the maker's stamp, along with coins, Roman pottery, terracotta representing deities, and a beautiful bronze bracelet. An important part of the house, including a corridor, a room with a hypocaust, and a spectacular wall built using the herringbone technique, were preserved, restored, and integrated into the basement of the newly built residential complex. The restoration process respected ancient construction techniques using mortars similar to the original ones. These Roman remains have been carefully preserved, offering the public a valuable glimpse into everyday life and the domestic architecture of ancient Apulum. With that being said, I would like to thank you once again for the invitation. Thank you for watching. My gratitude also goes to all the volunteers and everyone who came to Altip excavation in 2023, including here Mark Graham, who I warmly congratulate for the great discovery of Hadrian's Wall in that part of Cumbria. If you found this presentation interesting and would like to know more about our discoveries at Apulum, you can reach me at the email address I shared with the organizers. I hope to join you online next time. Thank you all and best of luck with your research.